This month, Free Press reporter Olivia Reingold has been covering the trial of Daniel Penny, the former Marine who was charged last year in the death of Jordan Neely, a mentally ill homeless man who was threatening subway passengers when Penny put him in a chokehold. If convicted, Penny could receive up to 15 years in prison. This case has become a flashpoint in debates about race, crime in blue cities, and the appropriate use of force. The Free Press just released a fascinating video narrated by Olivia that actually shows minute by minute what happened in the subway, using witness phone videos and police body cam footage. Take a look.
You had a fight at all?
No, he came on the train. I was sitting right there. I was sitting next to everybody that was moving. That was the last one I was sitting. He came on the train. He was like, yo, I'm looking for food. I'm looking for this shit. Like, he was ready to risk it all, basically. He was like basically, he was going to tell the people about to hurt somebody. He was jumping on the floor. He's like, I'm ready to hurt somebody. I'm ready to do this. And he was right here. Like I said, I don't think he did nothing wrong. Everybody moved, and he was about to start hitting people. He came in and he tried to this while the cop was coming. They took Matt, everybody, I was falling out home.
Yeah.
They took mad on the cop. He was trying to resist him on somebody's game. They took mad on.
Also covers the very divided public reaction to the Penny case.
This was a terrifying situation.
The one person who was in danger obviously was Jordan Neely.
Jordan Neely committing crimes willy-nilly.
42 arrests.
He deserved to live.
To step in as a good Samaritan and protect people.
AOC, what do you think about Governor DeSantis calling Penny a good Samaritan?
I think he should read a Bible.
Daniel Penny is a hero.
It is unfortunate what happened, but thank God he was there.
There'll be no justice. There'll be no peace.
Olivia Reingold, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Controversial case. I mean, for people of a particular vintage, we remember the subway vigilante in the early 80s that
right.
Bernie gets. Look, and this is so common for people who don't live in New York City. I opened the New York Post this morning to another fight on the subway, which involved somebody restraining somebody else and the people screaming, "I can't breathe." Happened again this morning. The person was arrested. No one was killed.
Wow,
but
okay.
this is like a kind of daily occurrence. So the reaction from people to this in New York City is slightly different, isn't it? It's like how you react to these things, because I've seen this stuff on the subway. So what's the kind of general feel you get from people in New York about this case?
Okay, so there are almost immediately America was divided on this case, and there are two reactions. One reaction, recently I had dinner with these Democratic donors, and they were asking me what I think about the case, and they were like, what even is the case for Daniel Penny? Like, they literally couldn't conceptualize it and were asking me to verbalize like what his supporters say. So there's that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I got off the phone with a source in the criminal justice system, not in New York this morning, who is so pro-Penny. And so anyway, the country is really divided. On the one hand, there are people who see this as an act of racist vigilantism in which a white man, killed a black man. For a lot of people, this all comes down to race, and that's all you need to know, that Daniel Penny is white, Jordan Neely was black.
Wait, so those are the data points, and they appear to me to be the only data points to support that narrative. I mean, he didn't say anything as far as we know, right? Is there any accusations that he has a racist past, that he's posted things on social media, things like that? I mean, I imagine that they're trying to establish that he has some racial bias kind of built into him.
Honestly, more what they have been talking about. So the prosecution, they actually showed this video of his interrogation, which a lot of people,
which you obtained, yes.
A lot of people look at that and think that it is supportive of Daniel Penny because, he's very compliant with the cops. He really seems like someone who just wants to do the right thing. But that is actually a piece of evidence presented by the prosecution. And the reason why they wanted to present that is because he says something like, I put him out. And he kind of describes the use of force. And so people who are, think that this is an act of racist vigilantism, I think see violence in what happened, that there was a lot of aggression. And certainly a big question is, okay, to sustain and subdue him is one thing, but this did go on for 6 minutes. So that is a big question.
But it's an interesting thing too, because if you look at something like the Derek Chauvin case, that sort of precipitated the racial reckoning, the so-called racial reckoning in America. And we have this, which is viewed through the prism of races too. There was no one in that trial of Derek Chauvin that mentioned race. No one noticed that. America had a conversation about race, but there wasn't a conversation about race in the courtroom. Is that the same here? I mean, is there an argument being made about bias, either implicit or explicit bias? No, so there isn't.
He's not. It's not. He's not being tried for a hate crime.
Correct.
So you're right in that. When you sit through the trial day and day out, race is not mentioned. But then the moment we break for lunch or we break for the day, when I'm speaking to people who have been watching the trial, because there are people who come every day and they instantly bring up race.
Do they need work? Is that the problem? Is they don't have jobs? Like, why would somebody outside of your business go every day?
I do have questions about
that's wild.
How they're able to do that. But yeah, a lot of people I speak to have only missed a day or two.
So what is some of the stuff that's been presented in this trial that has shocked you? I mean, obviously you put together this thing with the people at the Free Press of a kind of TikTok, not the platform, but a TikTok, a minute-by-minute thing of what happened. Mm-hmm. What has been revealed that has been surprising? I've seen a number of headlines that this bit of evidence either vindicates or tends to convict Daniel Penny.
Okay, I would say that I almost gasped in trial when the medical examiner was on the stand. This went on for a long time, at least 2 days. The medical examiner was testifying, and she revealed, I would say rather defiantly, that she did not wait for full toxicology results before ruling that Jordan Neely had died from compression of his neck and then, in parentheses, a chokehold. And anyway, when those results came back, they revealed that he had K2 in his system and was likely high on K2 at the time this happened. So that's one thing, the drug use. The defense also presented hundreds of pages, if not thousands of pages of medical records of Jordan Neely that just really detail a really honestly sad and upsetting, tragic life in which he was constantly in and out of psych wards, often because of K2 use. And then there's the fact that he was in what's called a sickling cycle. He didn't have sickle cell anemia. My understanding is that he more so had something called sickle cell trait, but was in a cycle in which it makes sense that he would be having trouble processing oxygen. So those were two big reveals.
I mean, it's hard, and I think there's probably a few people that could look at this objectively and not feel bad for him. Not just the fact that he died on that subway car, that he's obviously a person that's in perpetual crisis, and there's not a system here that can help these people and handle these people. I see it every day on the subway. That response from the medical examiner, do you think that, I mean, just out of a guess, that was influenced by what happened in 2020?
I mean, you kind of have
no reporting on that, but it's like when you're saying that it's the compression on the neck, it can't be the drugs. It's literally exactly what we saw with George Floyd. And I wonder if the kind of political consequences of that can have any effect. Because that's kind of how people see it, as a sort of that in miniature, in a way, right?
Yeah, well, I would say, I can't remember exactly what the defense pressed her on in the cross-examination, but I think there was some, I think that's definitely what the defense was trying to paint there, that this had been political. And of course, there are people who believe that the whole thing is political. The fact that Daniel Penny could be facing up to 15 years in prison for intervening in what a lot of people say is the police's job that they have forfeited.
That they're not there for quite often. I mean, I actually have a test that I say to people who say, the police are a net negative in New York, and I say all the time, and I always get the same answer: if you see cops waiting to get on a car, do you get on that one? I usually do, because I'm like, especially when you're on a dodgy train. But some of the things that have come out in this that I didn't know that kind of swayed me in a particular direction was that the things that Jordan Neely was saying, like, somebody's going to die today.
Right.
And now, is that contested at all? Because we have video, but not of that, right?
Yeah, so what we have video of is basically once the altercation started happening. Prior, when Jordan Neely, it actually sounds really cinematic, like the doors supposedly were just about to shut, and he puts his hand in, gets on board. Witnesses are unanimous in saying he was threatening, but we don't have video of what happened before they were on the subway floor. It is.
Are people mostly testifying, the witnesses testifying, that would generally seem to be in in his favor? I mean, in the favor of Daniel Penny?
I would say so, just simply because almost all of them backed up the reason that they had a reason to feel in fear, if that makes sense.
I think that, in a way that it's just one of those things. Why do we lose elections, which is the Democrats' conversation? Why these swings in cities? And you have this sense of like, there are people that, steal $800 worth of stuff at Walgreens, therefore I can't get anything because everything's locked up, and they get let go. And a guy who clearly didn't wake up that day with the intention of killing somebody, I don't think anyone makes that argument, is going through this thing that strikes me as a bit odd, because it seems like, there's no cops there. He intervenes. The guy is having a crisis. I mean, what is the argument of the prosecution that he should have let go earlier, that he should have not intervened at all? I mean, what is the general kind of vibe from them?
Well, I just want to add that Jordan Neely did have a warrant out for his arrest at the time that this happened. And so a lot of people see this as an abdication of what the district attorney should be doing. And instead of going after people like you described, who are creating a sense of chaos and disorder in the cities, robberies. Just in the past few weeks, there have been horrific, totally random stabbings, no rhyme or reason.
Torres slashed in the face yesterday, 2 days ago.
As to how you even prevent something like that, except if the DA prosecutes people like that. I think that is. But anyway, instead of going after repeat criminals, Alvin Bragg, the progressive DA in Manhattan, has been going after Trump. People like Trump and people like Daniel Penny.
Well, when there's a void, it is filled. Remember, in the worst parts of New York City, in the crime crises, in the past, we had the guardian angels that would walk on trains with red berets because the police weren't there to do the job. Olivia Reingold. I think
that guy Curtis
Sliwa.
He should run again, right?
You know what? It's not a political statement. Kind of love Curtis Sliwa.
Tell us what
he
you're
just
up
looks
to,
amazing.
Curtis.
He looks amazing. I met him one time, and he's a hilarious guy too. Olivia, thank you for this. We'll be paying attention to your reporting, and we'll be talking to you soon. Okay.